Hello, everybody. I am back, is what she says, and then doesn't show up again for 3 weeks. Hi, have you missed me? Probably not. My name is Elisa. If you have no idea who I am or what I do, I have a YouTube channel, as you can tell, called Thrills and Stitches, and I sew, design, and sell my own sewing patterns. If I don't make tutorials about my own sewing patterns, I usually just take you along on a sewing adventure. Oftentimes I would do something like I see it, I want it, where I copy something that is usually very expensive and I cannot afford, or I do seasonal destashings where I try to sew through my fabric stash as much as I can. This is indeed the first video of the year, and I'm well aware that it is mid-March. You might be asking yourself, what is she doing? Where did she go? Some of you might remember that I wrote a book last year. Now guess what? It's actually a thing. It's published. It's out. You can buy it. And I am an author. This book is called The Dragon, the Wolf, and the Daughter of the Sky, and it came from a bout of depression that I went through last year, because running your own business and running a YouTube channel like this one is actually, as it turns out, very, very demanding. I have been doing it for 4 years, and then last year around New Year's Eve, I fell ill, and then I realized that I was sort of kind of a little overworked. So I had to take a break. And what did I do? In that break, I wrote the first draft of this book. It has been a long journey. Those of you who have followed along will know that I've been working on this for almost the entirety of last year. I did the whole shebang that one must do when they write a book with the intention of publishing it. This went through several iterations of editing. I actually did a beta reader round with 8 lovely volunteers who read this book and gave me feedback. I then went back in once more to edit that version until I ended up with the final version of the book, which was then sent out to ARC readers, which means people who get an advanced reader copy. And since March 1st, this book is available for purchase on Amazon, Apple Books, and that's it. You can get the ebook, you can get the paperback that I'm holding up right here, or you can get a special edition hardcover. It's not really a special edition, but it's just more substantial than the paperback. Why am I telling you all of this? Because today we are going to make a garment that is of great significance to the story of my book. The Dragon, the Wolf, and the Daughter of the Sky is inspired by East Asian folklore, specifically Japanese folklore. Now, in this book, Japan isn't actually mentioned. However, through the descriptions in the story, you pretty quickly get a grasp of the setting and the cultural influences that inspired the story. My main character, Chioru, which you can see here on the cover, is gifted a what I call robe in the book, a lavender robe that she cherishes very much because it is gifted to her by somebody that she loves. I have been encouraged to have a think about whether or not I wanted to actually make said robe for my channel. And you know what? I decided that that was a good idea. At least it felt like a good idea until I started making it. Why am I saying this? Because this is obviously a kimono, right? So when I say robe and the story is inspired by Japanese folklore, naturally we're talking about a kimono. A kimono is a Japanese garment of cultural significance, and making something like that is always very daunting. So the first thing that I did is head over heels jumping into research. And I'm now going to show you the scattered process of that and the information that I was able to glean from the internet. All right, so I have done a bunch of research this morning, and I found out a couple of things. First of all, there's obviously different types of kimonos, right? Not everything is a kimono. There's something like a yukata, which is basically a summer version of a kimono, which you would usually make from non-precious fabric, something more cottony. And then there are traditional kimonos that we know today. There were obviously different types of them over the different eras. Now, traditionally, a kimono would be made from something called tanmono, which is a narrow roll of fabric where there's like 12 meters on that tiny roll. And basically you just cut strips from that and then you assemble the kimono, right? So you don't actually have to cut the pattern pieces, you just cut certain lengths from that tanmono and then you assemble everything. But since we're in the UK and we don't have access to a tanmono roll, we need to work with regular old school fabric, right? And this guy here from House of Kimono on Etsy/YouTube adapted the traditional kimono pattern to our Western standard fabric sizes. And he does that with two options. One is 140 centimeters width fabric, or like 110 to 120. If you do the wider standard, then you only need 3.5 meters. If you have the more narrow fabric, you need 4.5 meters. Here in the instructions, which is basically a non-print pattern, it's literally just instructions on how to cut your rectangles, because this is what the kimono is made from. I need to now cut a bunch of pieces, basically, to assemble everything. So that's what I'll focus on now. Okay, I figured I did a lot of research right now. I feel like I'm getting a grasp of the situation, and to motivate myself, I'm gonna hop out and do some fabric shopping, because of course it's not like I put myself on a fabric shopping ban, did I? But because the outfit is very specific and it's described in a very specific way, I do need to get the right fabric for it. So what I'm on the hunt for is either a silk sateen or like a cotton sateen in a lavender lilac color with contrasting floral print. Very specific. And then I need probably something a little stiffer, maybe a brocade or like a satin for the obi belt, which I am looking to get in a complementary plum color, because that's how I described it in the book. It's a lilac robe with a plum belt. Yeah, very specific. If you haven't heard, by the way, what this book is about, in a world ravaged by warlords, demons, spirits, and gods, a girl named Chioru falls from the tier of a self-destructive dragon god and is born from said tier. She's a mythical being. She's not human. She's not a demon. She's not a spirit. She's something very much her own. And this story is about her becoming. It's about her coming of age. It's about her finding her path in the world and navigating a fate that is predestined for her through her god, which is Shinin, the dragon god of renewal, whose tier birthed her, basically. It is a story for adults, because I have been asked this before. This is adult dark fantasy with emotional realism, mythic themes, good humor, I would say. People have told me that they have laughed and cried and had every emotion under the sun. And there's also a little bit of plot relevant spice in here. I am so proud that this book has received glowing reviews so far. I'm a little bit bashful to say that, actually. I am on Goodreads, so if you're interested in reading what other people thought about this book, go check it out. I will leave the link in the description. Okay, look, I'm a little bit stunned. I found the perfect fabric. Before I show you, actually, let me read you the little passage where I describe the outfit, right? Beside her, in a neat triangle, lay 3 apples. Out of season, they seemed like the remnants of a dream at first. Chioru stared at them for a long moment, something stirring inside her just beyond memory's reach. Next to the apples, folded with careful precision, lay fresh robes. Slowly, she sat up, the sheets pooling at her waist. She reached out, her fingertips brushing over the silken fabric. It was lavender, delicately embroidered with thread barely brighter than the base. A secondary robe lay beneath it, crisp and white, with a belt the color of ripe plums. It was the most beautiful set of clothing she had ever seen. Okay, now, sit down. Lavender fabric, silken, right? So this is silk satin with a floral embroidery slightly brighter than the base. So we have florals here, plus the addition of little birds, but this is practically more or less exactly the type of fabric that I envisaged, which is kind of nuts. Let's be honest, it's a little nuts. And I wasn't looking for this for weeks. I literally went out and found it. If that's not serendipitous, I don't know what is. So this is the fabric for the outer robe, for the kimono. And then I got this purpley Mikado satin, which, by the way, Mikado satin was first invented in Japan. I googled. Nowadays it's obviously produced all over the world, but it was something that was first invented and produced in Japan. In this dark purple color, I describe it as a dark plum. Now, plum arguably could be a little bit more reddish, but I thought it's a very nice match with the outer fabric. And then I've got this beautiful ivory cotton for the underrobe. I mean, it's perfect. It is perfect. And it actually, normally I'm not the type, I would say, for lavender and purple, but I think it works. I can do it. I think I can pull it off. And I'm very motivated to get into this. So let me have a closer look at the pattern. just made my life infinitely harder for myself because my fabric doesn't have the print lengthwise, but horizontally from selvage to selvage. So what I mean is, here is the selvage, down here is the selvage, and my birds are looking up this way, right? Rather than this way, which is the length way. Which means I have to cut it in a different way than is shown in the cutting plan of this pattern, which is a little annoying, I'm not gonna lie. So I'll have to figure it out now. Alright, so the first thing I'll do is sew the shoulder seams and make sure that the pattern faces opposite direction, so the back and the front is the right way. By the way, I haven't mentioned that yet. Traditionally, kimonos are sewn by hand. We're not going to do that. We're going to sew it on the sewing machine. But I acknowledge the fact that this is incorrect. I feel like throughout this process, what I was making changed depending on the tools and supplies that I had available. While I thought for quite a long time that I was going to make a furi soda, due to fabric restraints and circumstances, or like, how would you say, just the given nature of the fabric that I bought, as in terms of width and length, I had to make some changes, and in the end I ended up with a regular women's kimono, a regular lined women's kimono. Main reason being that I am very tall and the fabric was just not enough for me to make a furi soda. I would really recommend the pattern sheet that I purchased on Etsy. It's from House of Kimono, and actually was also very educational. The creator didn't only just give you a cutting sheet, they also created a really interesting historical deep dive into the history of kimonos, and that paired with the research that I did online really taught me a lot about how kimonos are made and what different types there are, and also how they changed throughout history. Right, now we're gonna do the only curved seam in the whole piece, which is the neckline. So I'm just placing it like this. If I didn't have a seam, I would have to find the center back now, but since we have a seam, I don't have to do that. Okay, so it says measure 5 centimeters down the center back, which is here. I'm gonna place a pin here, and then measure 10 centimeters across the shoulder from the center back on each side. So this is down this way. I'm gonna do that from the seam allowance. Just wondering what to do with the front. Am I supposed to cut that way, or that's not really explained here? Okay, I don't think I'm supposed to cut this. I'm just gonna, okay, that stays. That section stays. Sort of like that. Sort of like this, I think is the idea. Alright, the body is assembled. I am obsessed with the fabric. This was such a find. And we have a lot of vertical lines with the seams. So this is basically all strips sewn together and part of the sleeve, which is coming off like this. And now I need to suss out how to attach the sleeve because I'm not entirely sure actually. Okay, I have made some serious progress off camera because it was a little bit more complicated than I had anticipated. Basically, I've done the sleeve almost to completion. Could have been longer even. Sometimes they go all the way down to the floor, but I did not have enough fabric for that, and I'm a very tall lady, so this will have to do. And before this is done, what I need to do is actually sew this up by hand up until about here, so that the front is closed, but the back is open. And this was the difficulty here, to get this lined and have it look nice, because it swings open in the back and you can see the lining. Now that was a bit of a mental exercise. And I have to do that again with the other sleeve, and I think that I'm gonna call it a day for today, because I realized that I don't have enough fabric to line the entire furi soda. I will have to get more of this, I think. And also the collar is a little bit of a conundrum. I haven't fully understood yet how to attach that. But I am obsessed with this fabric. This is just gorgeous. It's just gorgeous. I don't really have anything else to say about that. So I think this is gonna be really nice. I think I made a good head start today. So let's see where tomorrow takes me. My workday has ended and it's still bright outside, so I'm gonna sew now, which I'm very excited about. I just took off the sleeves again because I'm gonna do this properly, and for that I had to take off the sleeves. So I'm gonna now do the lining. I'm gonna complete the lining, and then I should be able to assemble the entirety of the furi soda, because I already prepped the collar last night. The sleeves are prepped now. I just need to do that main part of the bodice lining, so I'm gonna do that now. While I'm listening to a manuscript from a fellow author in Australia. I made a lot of bookish friends on TikTok recently, and she is absolutely amazing. I just read snippets of her manuscript on the post that she shared, and she's currently, this is not publicly available anywhere, right? But I reached out to her and I was like, hey, if you need somebody to read your manuscript and give you feedback, I'm here. So that's what I'm doing right now. And I feel very, very smug with myself because it's like somebody wrote a book just for me. And it is very good. So now I'm listening to the last 2 chapters while sewing my lining. Last year has really been a wild, wild ride for me. Things have changed. I have been doing this YouTube channel for 4 years and I loved doing it. And currently I am in a phase where I'm trying to sort of like rediscover the zest that I have for sewing and then pour it back into what I'm doing here. I don't have an intention of stopping what I'm doing here, even though some of you might have gotten that impression over the last months because I haven't actually uploaded much. The last thing you've seen me do was my birthday dress back in November. But I am currently trying to find the joy in it again. I don't want to sound like super dramatic, you know, I'm not clinically depressed or anything. I didn't like lose anybody. I didn't, you know, lose my job or anything like this. I just ran out of juice. It's really what it is sometimes. And I wanted to give myself the time and grace to recover from that. And this book really helped me through that process. I always loved reading my entire life. I loved reading. I loved storytelling. I did theater when I was a kid, and I think I mentioned that before. I also think that fashion is a type of storytelling device. I actually wrote a really bad novel when I was a teenager. That is still somewhere in my parents' house, I think. But I haven't really written anything in my 20s. So this really, I have to say, came out of nowhere. But that also just tells me that the story probably had to be told. The characters just poured out of me. The chapters just poured out of me. I had the first draft of this book done in 8 weeks, and I'm not saying that to brag, and I'm just saying that because sometimes, you know, the muse literally finds you, and if you do not listen to it, it will throttle you. I feel like that really was what happened. I have no other explanation for this. Ooh, I've done a lot of stuff off camera now. Lining this beast was actually a lot of work, but it's done. It is done. The only thing that's still open is the hem. And now I'm taking my already prepped collar, which is really just a long strip of fabric with a short strip of fabric sewn on to reinforce that part. That's the back collar basically. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish the edge here by folding it right sides, touching and sewing it shut. So I can turn it this way, give it a good press, because this actually just sticks out. That's just how it is apparently. Alright, so before I can now attach the collar, I have just measured out where to it's going. And now what I'm going to try and do is cut away this excess here, because nobody needs that. We don't need that. So I'm just going to try and create a straightish line. Okay, whew. Right, now I'm probably gonna have an easier time attaching the collar. This is a big piece of clothing, in case you're wondering. This is not the light, airy kimono a lot of people probably imagine. This is a proper ceremonial garb. Now the idea is that now I'm going to attach the collar to the main bodice of the furisore, and I'm gonna do that by sewing only one layer of the collar on basically. There's also another way of doing this, I just realized, which might be the better way. This is what the tutorial says to do, which is, you know, putting it on one side and doing the stitch in the ditch thing. But my hem is still open, so I could overturn this through the hem. I think that's the better way to do it. Turning things right sides, touching, grabbing this with my thumb and index finger as I usually do, and then I turn everything inside out basically. So now we're looking at it from the inside. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the collar, I'm going to find the center back, which I've marked with a notch. I'm going to plop that in between the lining and the shell, finding the center back once more, aligning all this, and then placing my first pin. So this is the starting point, it's always the center back. And then from here I just pin left and right, sandwiching the collar in between the 2 layers. That's a lot of layers of fabric, but here we are. And this way the collar is going to be nicely attached and I don't have to do any hand sewing in that area. And then the hem is the easiest part. Let me speed this up for you. The crazy thing is, apart from writing the book and finishing the story, that wasn't actually the hardest part. The hardest part was getting it out there, learning everything adjacent to publishing a book. This didn't come out of nowhere. I had to learn how to format a book. I had to learn how to write front matter, which is all the legal speak that you see in the beginning of a book. I had to learn what ISBN numbers are. I had to buy them somewhere. I'm actually now officially a publisher. I am registered with Nielsen UK, which is all kind of wild that all of that came from me waking up on Valentine's Day last year and having an idea for a story. And I guess I'm just saying all of that because I learned firsthand how much things can change in the span of 12 months. I'm doing none of this for the money. Indie publishing is not for the faint of heart. It's not something that you earn money with. I have actually recently been asked if it's worth starting a sewing pattern business and if there are financial benefits that you gain from doing it. And I think I can frankly say yes, there are. If you make sewing patterns people want to buy, you will make some money for it. And Etsy is a great marketplace that will do a lot of the work for you. You pay them to do the work for you, but in the end of the day, at the moment, I'm doing absolutely nothing for my sewing business and people still buy my patterns, and that's all down to Etsy. This, however, nobody's marketing for me. I have to do all of that by myself, for myself, because Amazon doesn't give a flying fluff about you. I'm actually on TikTok now. Yes, this grown-up lady has a TikTok account. So if you're on TikTok, you can find me under my pen name, which is EK Mandel. I've been there since May last year, but I haven't really done anything. And I only started seriously posting at the beginning of this year when I arbitrarily decided that March 1st was going to be the launch date for my book. Alright, I am almost done with everything. I just finished the kimono itself, the furry soda, and now I'm going to do the obi belt, and that's really just 2 squares that I'm going to join and overturn and then press, and that's it. I do feel like all of my passions in life slowly but surely start clicking together. I've always been a very creative person naturally, but also interested in people, interested in making art, interested in expressing emotions. And I feel like doing this on my YouTube channel was the start of all of it, and it helped me so much putting myself out there. It helped me so much in being more comfortable with showing people my weird. All of you guys, all of you who are following me and who are watching my videos, you just watch me ramble on a weekly basis and you think it's fun, which is actually kind of crazy. And another thing that I learned from last year is that following your delusions is actually the only way to achieve anything in life. Not that I've not achieved much with this book so far, but the thing that I have achieved was proving to myself that I can do it, which is already quite a big deal, I would say. I have also actually, over the course of the 4 years of me doing this here on YouTube, received a lot of comments of people saying, I love the way you talk, I love the way you explain things, you have a soothing voice and things like that, which, thank you, very, very honored that you would say something like that. But I also feel like that comes from what's going on in my brain, the kind of stories I'm telling myself. And now all of that is maybe part of why you enjoy watching my videos is now, I've poured into this basically. So my voice, the way I speak, the way I think, everything is now written down for the world to see. All right, now this needs a good press, and then we can put it on. I just want to say that I loved making this. It was so interesting. I learned so much about the traditional ways in which kimonos are made, but I will say that this is not an authentic kimono due to certain restraints that I had to work with. For me, this is an homage to the culture. This is an homage to all the stories that I've loved watching and reading throughout my life, and I still cannot believe that I found this fabric. It is definitely very traditional in shape. I see that when people in the Western Hemisphere use kimono silhouettes in whatever they're making, then often it is changed to reflect more of a silhouette that maybe we think is more flattering. This is not that. It's also too big for me. That's something that I realized in hindsight. I should have made the panels slightly more narrow. But I think overall the shape reflects the more traditional shape of a kimono. And it was much harder to make than I thought. As you know, because you've just watched the video, the kimono is really just made from a number of panels. But The sleeves were what got me. They were much more complicated than I thought, lining them and then attaching them to the rest of the piece. And also the collar, I only realized that I had to fold the collar while I was filming basically the reveal. I did not clock that before. All right, and that is it for me today. I will be back soon with a few more spring projects because I've been sent a beautiful fabric recently by Yard Blocks Fabrics, which I will show you very soon. And that is it for me today, my friends. See you soon. Bye-bye.